Yes, yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live. I am Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third. And I'm always joined by my co-hosts, Mo Murphy, Sage Alvarez. But we have a special guest that's going to join us today. His name is Craig Campbell. He is the one responsible for putting us on this platform. He's responsible for CoachellaValley.com, today's California.com, today's Canada.com. Today is Fed Up Friday, y'all. So I'm trying to make this a thing, and people are not catching on yet, but y'all will catch on. Hashtag Fed Up Friday. Whatever you are fed up about, I want to know. We want to know, and we're gonna hashtag it, put it on Twitter, and but I want to say what's up to my man Mo Murphy. What's up, Mo Murphy?
Yo, what's going on, bro? How you doing, bro? It's Friday. You know what I'm saying?
It's Fed Up Friday, bro.
It's Fed Up Friday, and there's a lot of things we fed up with. So you know what I'm saying. But it is Friday.
All right. So tell me one thing you fed up with. What are you fed up with?
The red flags on Twitter. I'm tired of seeing what is considered a red flag, and then I'm mad they done brought it into the sports world based on people's thought process about how they feel. If you feel this way about a certain player, red flag, as if they can't respect your knowledge. I hate that they brought it into the sports world for the simple fact, bro, you got to respect takes. Oh, if you think so-and-so's a top 5 player, red flag. Hey, that's a personal opinion. If you come with some facts and some thought process behind that, it's not a red flag. It's just I'm tired of seeing the red flags, and I'm mad that it did get brought into the sports world.
And when it comes to Twitter, I'm also upset because if I wear a shirt like this, Nirvana, people automatically assume that I'm just a hip-hop head and I don't know anything about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, but I know they always ask me, give me one Nirvana song. Smells Like Teen Spirit, Something in the Way, About a Girl, Lithium. We can go on and on. Like, I love music. So I'm fed up with people thinking that I don't know about the stuff that I wear. But we're going to be joined by Sage Alvarez. And of course, we have Craig Campbell today. He was a defensive coordinator for the College of the Desert, and he is a defensive genius. Like, we sat down and we talked about how to neutralize Cam Newton. And my man should be working for the NFL right now. So as soon as we bring him in, then y'all going to get some insight. But real quick, we had VJ Vernon Husky on yesterday, and it was a passionate, heated debate. And we talked about, basketball, Kyrie Irving, the whole situation. But there was a point that you didn't really get to address. And you talked about how some people are bigger than basketball. And just before you go, I would say this. Kobe Bryant is a perfect example of bigger than basketball because you had like little ladies at the grocery store crying over Kobe when he died. So there are certain people that are bigger than basketball. And I know basketball is a great game, but ultimately some certain athletes transcend just the game itself. But go ahead. I'll let you get on your soapbox.
That's just when I say like they're bigger than basketball or bigger than football. There's a select few athletes throughout certain times that are bigger than that. Magic Johnson is a guy who he's now bigger than basketball, and I don't mean that like without them the game is not okay. The game goes on, but it's about your legacy. What are you remembered for? And like LeBron said, like it's more than an athlete. He's more than that. And there's some guys that have outdone themselves with just being known for being on the basketball court. Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to the late, great Kobe Bryant. But when he passed, the focus wasn't necessarily we know how great of a basketball player it is, but it was how great how much he led us in his life and how great of a father he was, how much he was advocating for women in sports, especially having, being a girl dad, having no sons. He wrote a book, like, what I'm saying? He won an award for writing a book. He's not just basketball. Like, he's been acknowledged for being bigger than that. LeBron James has a school. You can talk on the political side. I hate politics, but I'm saying like when these guys, when their legacy is all written and they're under that tombstone, what do you remember it for? And there's some of these guys, it's more than just how great they were on the court. LeBron's going to be one of those guys. Michael Jordan's going to be one of those guys. Kobe Bryant is one of those guys. Magic Johnson, like there's just certain people that it's more than basketball, and especially the ones who outside of basketball let us in their inside life. And a guy in football, Tom Brady, he's starting to do that. He left New England. It's not all business. Now we're starting to see who Tom Brady really is. Tom Brady is becoming one of the most lovable athletes that I've probably seen hated for 20 years. But a simple fact, it was so serious in business in New England because all it was football, and that's what you're going to be known for. And then he's doing his TB12 productions. He's letting you in. He's more social media active. He's taking more interviews.
He has Giselle.
Yeah, but he's talking to people. And he's had Giselle for a while, who's a supermodel, we know, but he wasn't really out there. He wouldn't talk. And a sit down, do the show with LeBron James. Like now he's letting people in and let people know who Tom Brady really is. And he's more than just a quarterback. He's more than just a Super Bowl champion at New England. And he's becoming bigger than football. And now Tom Brady's one of the most liked athletes. And you root for the guy. And just imagine that, because this was a guy who played for a team that if you weren't a fan of the Patriots, we've hated and rooted for 20 years. And everybody, well, why would you hate them? Because they win. That's why. And he's turned from this guy all the way. He gets to Florida, gets to play for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And now you actually see what kind of person Tom Brady is. And he's becoming one of the most lovable athletes it's that I've seen, as far as he went from hated to love in a matter of a year.
Polarizing is how I would describe it. So so you've named 5 athletes, basketball and football. Now, baseball, like we're in the playoffs right now. Is there a player in the Major League Baseball that is bigger than baseball? See, that long. I was trying to think while you were talking.
Tougher, but a lot of the baseball players just play baseball, become great, and dip. Like they don't. It's the guys that were bigger than baseball was Jackie Robinson. Like if we want to go back, like Hank Aaron became bigger than baseball. If we go back in time, there were baseball players that were bigger than baseball. But then after most baseball players, like they play baseball. They're great. They're legendary. Derek Jeter. How much do we hear from Derek Jeter now that he's not playing baseball?
That is a great name, because I was waiting for you to say Derek Jeter. I think Derek Jeter is
the biracial angel, but we don't hear from him now that he doesn't play baseball, which is fine. I don't have to hear from him. But I'm saying, like, the guys that were bigger than baseball were like the monumental, historic guys, like, Hank Aaron, Jackie Robinson. Those are guys. It was bigger than baseball, even at the time that they played. But as far as current athletes, there's not a lot, only because it just seems like if there is a sport like the hockey and the baseball guys, after their career is said and done, you don't hear too much from them, which is okay. But I just feel like that's kind of more of a quiet sport. Do what you got to do, become legendary, and then, keep on.
In my opinion, it was a quiet sport until we started getting into the steroid era. And then last night, if you're watching the Dodgers versus the Giants, they have Barry Bonds like in the background, and then they zoom in on him when they come back from commercial break. And obviously, he has a regular size head, because Barry Bonds had, not only did he have a big head, like theoretically, but he had a big head because of the steroids. And he is one guy that I would say before the steroids that transcended baseball. But yeah, man, you like right now when you're talking about who is bigger than baseball, I mean, like who do you have? A-Rod?
And that's a maybe. When you talk about really being bigger than baseball, like if
I would say that because he pulled Cameron Diaz and he pulled J-Lo.
But it's because of how great he was in baseball. Like that's like he's A-Rod, but. Like if you look, and when I say people are bigger than a sport, I mean like when their legacy, when it's written and it's all said and done, what are they known for? And if you just looking at a guy, he was a legend in that sport, but he didn't become legendary elsewhere outside of that sport, I don't think you're bigger than the sport. But I never mean like a disrespect to the sport by saying Jordan was bigger than basketball. It's not saying, because some people will take it that like, oh, the game can't go on without him. No, that's not the case at all. But like A-Rod, yeah, maybe, but I don't like what is A-Rod known for outside of playing baseball? Like, yeah, we can talk about his relationship status, but relationship status comes with being a legend like he was playing baseball. Outside of that, if he goes down, what are you saying about A-Rod? Man, he was J-Lo on and off for 20 years. He was a legend on the field, and now like, oh, he owned the Minnesota Timberwolves, but like we still, that's not even for sure right now.
But people need to acknowledge. Well, first of all, let's acknowledge my man Sage Alvarez. What's going on, Sage? How you doing, bro?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Doing well, man. So we're talking right now about bigger than basketball, the debate we had yesterday, and I brought up who's bigger than baseball, and we're talking about A-Rod right now. And honestly, A-Rod can do anything, but one thing that needs to be acknowledged is he is one of the best color commentators that baseball has ever seen.
We're not gonna acknowledge
A-Rod would be like,
how
hey,
much he cheated the game though, and like the
real
baseball heads don't respect him. Come on, bro. Like I gotta stop you there, bro. Like come on now. Like I love the A-Rod back in the day when he was signing for the Rangers. He had a big deal, and
A-Rod would be like, look, he would tell everybody that's watching
like
the
Barry
broadcast.
Is
Barry shortstop is going to step back.
He's going to be like Barry Bonds, not in the Hall of Fame, and only making people laugh on TV because he's a great commentator.
A-Rod's one of the best players to ever play the game. So is Barry Bonds. They changed their legacy, but A-Rod would tell you on the broadcast, he'll be like, watch the shortstop. He'll move
No,
his
he's
right leg
great.
back
No, he
half an
knows the
inch,
game. No, that's
and
why
he'll
he's on
literally
TV.
move his.
He makes the big bucks for a reason. Still, he's so talented. He can overcome all that and still be great on TV. Isn't that
But
that's pure
baseball.
talent?
I
That's
mean,
pure
we see
talent.
Tony Romo great on
He
TV,
knows the sport so
but
well.
A-Rod was one of the greatest
Way.
middle infielders, and then transitioned to third base. One of the greatest players that we've ever seen, but he is one of the greatest broadcasters that will ever live. And
But is he he's one of the greatest? He's one of the greatest baseball broadcasters. He's not Colin Coward, where he got his own show and could break down and talk football, basketball, and entertainment. Everything with A-Rod is baseball. Baseball. He's a baseball. Typically, some of the great, because he's one of the greatest.
Let me ask you this.
Greatest minds.
Let me ask you this, Mo
Right.
Murphy
That's true.
and Sage. Before we bring in Craig Campbell, who is responsible for CoachellaValley.com, all of our success. He's been promoting and helping us out get to this point. But let me ask you this. So do you become bigger than your sport when you get asked to appear on Dancing with the Stars? Is that like a landmark?
No. Because you ultimately end up getting that opportunity because of your sport. And I'm not saying, but I'm saying, like, when you talk about LeBron, like LeBron's legacy, LeBron ain't, yes, everything comes down to, because he's a great basketball player, he has the money to do things. He built the school. He's paying for kids to go to college. Like, that's monumental in itself. Like, you're going to go down, that's part of your legacy. Kobe Bryant won an award for writing a children's book. Like, it, not only was he legendary, and he done something, writing a book that writers will never achieve, that the ultimate success of winning awards for writing a children's book. There are great writers who have written great books that will not get what Kobe Bryant got. So he became legendary. Michael Jordan, we know there's going to be kids 20 years from now who never seen Michael Jordan. You know, I don't want to say he won't be here, but if that was the possibility, and Michael Jordan is still known because of his shoes, his clothing line, his stamp on this and that, like, he was an international superstar. Like, the only person who was bigger than Michael Jordan in the world at the time was what? Madonna, Prince, and Michael Jackson.
And Magic Johnson.
And maybe Magic Johnson, even at that time. But it was Madonna, Prince, Mike Jack, Michael Jordan. And we're talking about celebrities who are entertainers who become worldwide and perform worldwide. Michael Jordan performed outside of the Olympics. He performed in America and was an international superstar. Kobe the same way, LeBron the same way. Like, they become international with really only performing here outside of every 4 years in the Olympics, and they only do that 2 to 3 times in their career, maybe.
That's a great point. But let's bring in Craig Campbell, who is the founder of CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com. He is also the founder of today'scanada.com. And everything you see in the Coachella Valley, my man is responsible for. So, Craig, can you?
Well, I can't be responsible for everything in the Coachella Valley. I really appreciate that. That sounds like I got a legacy going on already.
Yeah,
but you know what? Hey, guys, I'm loving seeing you guys. You guys are putting it out 5 days a week, 12:30, talking about sports. Although, I don't know, we had 2 games yesterday, important games yesterday. I haven't heard you guys say too much about either of them. You guys are bantering about something really important, Fed Up Friday. So I'll just start right here, jump right in. So you mentioned what you guys are really talking about are games. Now, listen, we got the game of football. We got the game of baseball. We got the game of basketball. But what you guys are talking about is the game of life. So that's bigger than all the interim things that we do during our life. So that's why you guys are having a hard time parsing these things, because you're trying to fit somehow life into NBA. Nobody's bigger than the NBA, because the NBA is a sport, a professional sport. It has its own life, its own evolution. It's going to continue on. And as generations go on, we'll have people inserted into that. But the game of life is something we're all actually challenged with and we're going after. And that's what you guys are talking about, is what you're going to end up doing with the time that you have here in every single element of what you're doing, whether you're on a field or whether you're in your older age, whatever it might be, how you're putting out your DNA for this historical moment. First of all, each of us completely unique, never going to live this time again. No one going to be like us. So that's the challenge that we really all have, is the game of life. So I just say that.
And I love the game of life.
Pardon me?
I love the game of life because I grew up playing it. Have y'all ever played the board game of life?
Yeah, loved it. All right, Fed Up Friday. I got something to say. So yesterday's game, we have the Giants and the Dodgers. What an incredible game. It took me a while to get to it, but I saw exactly what I needed to see. Really was loving it. However, why is there not a review of that strike? I do not understand why baseball will not insert the review right there and then, because it's so critical, so important. And the first base ump guy is the one calling it. he's so far away. Anything could happen, and it was close. When I saw it in real time, I was like, I don't know. I thought he might have he struck out. But at the same time, when I saw that replay, it really made me question stuff. So fed up there because baseball needs to get a grip and bring in some things that are super important because we've seen it in so many games that are so important that we fought over and struggled over because the referee or the umpire or somebody made a crummy call. So that's my fed up Friday right there.
And I agree with that. But to everybody who was upset with that last call, I will remind you that if you watch game 1, game 2, game 3, that there were questionable calls on the same check swings that we saw from the Dodgers that were called strikes.
You're making my point, Barry. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Fed up Friday, bring in the flag, bring in the red flag, get that Twitter flag out there in that incident because it's just too much. Everybody's getting so talented. The pitchers can just put it right in that spot. Baseball batters are practicing, making sure that they don't commit to those things. It's so minute. It's so important that we integrate that into baseball. So that's my pitch.
I'll take it a step further. They need to bring in the umpire robots that they have doing in the Division 1A, and they've been testing it out, and it looks legit. The statistics that the study that they've been doing, everything's going great. You still have the umpire behind the call, like the bounce balls of pitches, but it's gonna happen. The robot umpires are on their way. They're gonna call all the strikes, call all the balls, and it's gonna be perfect. And let's review that as well. We need to have more challenges in baseball to at least get these outrageous ones. I mean, it'd be that quick. We'd already know.
Now, this is Go Long Live, and we are live with Mo Murphy, Sage Alvarez, and Craig Campbell. And we are talking right now baseball, and we're talking about what we're fed up with. So whatever you're fed up with, let us know. It's Fed Up Friday. And I'm just going to say this as a baseball purist. I'm fed up with people talking about robots need to come in and be umpires because ultimately baseball is the reason why it's such a perfect sport is because it's timeless. There's no end of regulation. The end of regulation is whenever the 9 innings ends. And it is a sport that is a purist sport. So you do not want to insert robots. Like it was bad enough for people who really genuinely love the game of baseball to think about replay because even though it's necessary and it should have been in there a long time ago, baseball purists, we watched that and we're like, man, like now you're taking the umpires away.
But we have a better. We have
taking
the right
away
call.
Jobs.
Do you want the
you're
right
taking
call?
Away the human.
The right call? Do you want the right call or you want the right call? I want the right call. I don't want
baseball.
There's some
baseball,
pitches
we don't care.
They're like 4 feet wide and they're calling a strike. They make forever YouTube viral and we see how bad they are. We need to stop it. We need to stop it.
Go ahead, Mo Murphy, real quick, and then we'll get caught.
Human error is part of the game, but I like the replay to go back and fix human error. I'm not in love with the robot situation, but human error is part of the game. That's what refs are for. That's what umpires are for. And replay is to be able to go back and fix the possibilities of human error. So
the egregious ones.
With the robot. But I'm good with having refs and replaying and reevaluating bad decisions or bad calls because it's a part of the game, but you can reevaluate it with rules, just like the NBA. You get 2 replays a game with rules.
It's smart. Refs and umpires. Craig. I'm sorry to interrupt. Refs and umpires, super part of the game. You know it. They're the color, all that they're doing. They need to be there on the field anyway, just for manpower or women power on the field. Of course, I think it's super important. But ADP and WTA tennis adopted that challenge rule where the ball's outside or didn't hit the line or whatever. That has highly improved that sport tremendously. The key is you're going to match when you stop play. You just don't want to delay the games. You don't want the fan or anybody to be bored over it. And there's a way to keep it moving and keep the physical people out there calling most of the calls. So, but when it gets critical, when it matters, when your money's on the line, when your heart's on the line, when you're and it ends up being the wrong call, that's hard to stomach. So I like the integration. I like the way things are moving, and we have digital everything, and so we should definitely utilize stuff. Maybe not the robots, but we should definitely use the technology.
And to your point, Craig, even though I'm a baseball purist, one of the most frustrating things is when the umpire calls it a ball, and then they show the replay with the strike zone with it, and then you're like, man, that was clearly a strike, And that is one of the frustrating things. But the double-edged sword of Major League Baseball is
the robots
once you start
the robots clean that up, Barry. You wouldn't be upset about it no more if the robots were there to clean it up. That's what I'm confused about. You just said you're upset about, but the robots they're there to make sure those never happen.
Hear me out. Before we get into football.
The stats show it works. So
the stats do show it works. But I'm telling you, from a guy who loves baseball, I'm telling you, I
love the right call. I love innovating to where we get all the refs out of the game in baseball. Like let baseball players play the game baseball. That's what it's about. That's what umpires are there to really do.
Have you ever umpired a game? Because I was an umpire, and I understand that side of the spectrum.
Hey Barry,
yes,
Barry.
Sir.
You know what? Let's talk about that 2-point conversion call last night.
That ruined everybody's bet.
Let's talk about real people on the sideline that are still a part of the game. We got the coaches, we got the players, we got plenty of humans still in the game. They're not disappearing. Don't mean to interrupt you, but let's talk about that 2-point conversion call, 22-26, whatever it was, and it was like, okay, if they go down there and score, they're going to win the game.
They never got the ball back.
Really? I mean, I tried to process that and think, was that momentum? Was that just energy? Or was that just stupidity? Straight up, made no sense at all. There's no probabilities that work themselves out that say you're going to make that and then go down and score and then win a game. First of all, why do coaches not play to overtime? They think that overtime, yes, you got the coin toss, you got some issues there. But the truth of it is, how many teams making decisions and they're not thinking, well, we could win it in overtime. We could do this. It's a part of the game. It drives me nuts that you would think, and then the announcer's trying to justify some sort of 2-point conversion. If they hadn't have made that, they would have put themselves in a hole. They would have lost all the momentum. They kick a field goal. They kick that extra point. They'd still have to go down, and they could still, if they wanted to, like college, do the 2-pointer to win it if they really felt like at that point it made sense. So,
and the crazy thing is that
can we get robots for these guys?
The crazy thing is that like they went for the 2-point conversion when they didn't have to, but once they made the 2-point conversion, we were like, hey, now all they need is a touchdown and an extra point will win the game. But they never got the ball back. So I thought it was a little bit crazy. Mo Murphy, what did you think?
I agree with Craig. The whole like not playing for overtime and not leaving it at chance of overtime. You got to play for overtime because, like he said, first off, if you don't get the ball back, it doesn't matter. But second off, had you missed it, it looks all good and the announcers can say whatever they want because they made it. Had you missed it, now you have to score. And once again, with already not making a 2-point conversion, you got to go for it again. Like that's what you have to have. So now you're trying to go for a 2-for-1 situation. Go for overtime. Okay, if we score and you're playing against the better team, it's a superior team, you always go for the win. But if you take them into overtime, anything could happen. A coin flip could change the outcome of the game in overtime opposed to trying to.
We saw that with the Ravens. We saw that with the Ravens on Monday night. And now, Sage, you're Raiders fan. Now, a couple years ago, Jack Del Rio did the same thing, and he just went for the win. And then you guys ended up winning the game. Now, granted, this was a decision to actually win the game. It wasn't like to eventually tie the game up. But how do you feel about going for it in that situation?
Go ahead.
Sage.
Sounds me. So on that situation in that game, the momentum was on the Raiders side. I don't necessarily. I'm not for going for 2-point. I want to go to overtime because you're pinning it all to one play. You're pretty much giving yourself the 4th down instead of giving yourself a chance to get a stop. Now you don't believe in defense because you go to overtime, so they're going to score on you first time. I believe that you can get a stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Now speaking of defense,
at some point, we got it. And on that team, I don't think the Raiders believe in their defense. So they're like, we're just going to go all out because if we lose the coin flip, we're going to lose the game. That situation is a little bit different. But absolutely. I would still go for the field goal if they could.
And then a lot of people were criticizing them, saying, "Oh, you don't believe in your defense to get a stop." And ultimately, they didn't get a stop. But we have our defensive coordinator. He was the former defensive coordinator of COD.
Not defensive coordinator of COD, was the defensive coordinator for the NFL developmental team, SoCal Coyotes. I did coach 3 years of linebackers over at COD, and then also went on to the offensive side for running backs and tight ends. So just want to make that clarification.
But so I want to
coach a little bit of defense here and there.
I want to ask you, Craig. Now, you're obviously a defensive guru. So we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs being neutralized, and they don't have a really good running game right now. They just lost their main running back, Edwards-Helaire. So what would you do as a defensive coordinator or as a coach to neutralize Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense?
Well, it's pretty simple. You know, when you don't have to put the people in the box, you get quicker guys on the outside to be able to cover receivers, and you can put a little bit more pressure on that quarterback. So a lot of people don't really get this, but Mahomes is actually better when he releases the ball early. They think when he scrambles around and does all those things, yes, it looks spectacular, but his percentages are a lot less actually doing that. Obviously, it makes sense because if you're sitting there at a free throw shot in the NBA and you're sitting quiet behind the line and you're shooting it over and over, you're going to make it. If you have to run around and dance and throw that ball toward even that hoop, it's harder. Now imagine wide receiver slot players, running backs, whatever else, moving all over the place, and he's moving. The percentages actually drop, even though as time goes on, the potential for the pass to be completed is exciting. The truth is he's more dangerous in the pocket, like most quarterbacks, by the way. So that's what you want to do. You want to get him out there scrambling and moving and putting pressure on him. And with all those CBs out there now, you can cover and double team and do those types of things. You can move into a zone as well with him, because if you do play a lot of man, they'll run off and they'll open it up for him running. The truth is you want him running because you can hurt him. Not that you want to try to hurt him, but the point of it is that's the vulnerability of running quarterbacks. Whether it's Wilson or Cam Newtons of the world, we can go on and on and on and on.
Don't say Lamar Jackson, please.
Lamar Jackson.
And Lamar Jackson, well, he just fumbles the ball a lot, so it's still the same problem. So any way you look at it, when you get them moving, they're at risk. So with Mahomes, he's in trouble. He's got some trouble because it really does come up to that line. Of course, he's going to neutralize the defense by using screens, shovel passes, and other things that look like runs. And that's going to be very, very important, which is why you want to throw some zone in there and not always do a man situation. You get burned on the screens, get burned on some of those types of plays. But generally speaking, man, I'm putting pressure coming from the outside, containing him, and trying to get him to move around. And I'm going to play tight on all of those guys outside that are potentially going to catch that ball. That's the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because first off, you broke down the defensive side so beautifully. So we see a team who historically was not that great last year. They were historically one of the worst defenses ever, and the worst defensive franchise, the Dallas Cowboys. Two players seem to have made all the difference, and why the Dallas Cowboys is, we can say, top 10 to 15, middle of the pack at the worst as a defense. Is it all on Trayvon Diggs, taking that next step as corner, and Michael Parsons being so elite as a rookie? Or is it more so on Dan Quinn and what he's doing as a defensive coordinator? Because what it looks like is the addition of Dan Quinn and two players have made all the difference in seeing one of the most historically terrible defenses we've ever seen become semi-great and be part of the keys to success of why Dallas is 4-1 right now.
Got to have 53 players. I believe that's how many that suit up and go out there. You don't have all those guys, as we saw on field goal kickers. Doesn't matter what you do, your defense is going to look bad when you're losing games. But with that said, that 4-3 that Quinn's brought in, really powerful. Dallas had some complexities the year before that was really difficult for them to execute. And ultimately, you got to have athletes. This is the coaching part of the game. Got to have the right players, the right team out there to play. And they have definitely fielded some guys that are doing some super things. I mean, Diggs is killing it, and just love to see him play. He's so athletic and super dangerous. I mean, that helps the defense, but it does not make a full defense. I'll tell you why. Offensive coordinators adjust just as much as defensive coordinators adjust, and you can move the ball away from those players and have success over time. So it's going to be very, very important that they continue to take that 4-3 and learn it and get more sophisticated, but not overly sophisticated to the point that, when you're trying to learn a new defense, that's the toughest thing out there. Also, I'm going to also tell you they play in the NFC East, one of the weakest divisions out there. That makes them look a little bit maybe better than you might think they are. So when they go up against real competition or tougher competition, or as the game heightens, those offensive coordinators will be bringing something a little bit different, moving the ball away from those athletes. And as a result, we'll see then.
Absolutely. Now, Craig, you've been a coach, you've been an assistant, I'm pretty sure that you've led a group of men as a head coach. Now, when you look at this whole situation with John Gruden, it's a hot mess. Now, if you're the interim head coach that has to step in and has to lead these men and has to get them and galvanize the troops and get them ready to play for the next game, and it's only been a couple of days, what would you say to those men?
Hey, we're going to put a game plan out there. Going to work every single day. You're going to put the players out there to win the game. We're going to focus on that. So when they're out there, they're doing what they need to be doing. And that is the key to as a football coach, my responsibility would be to prepare the men and women, whoever I'm coaching, to go out and play that game. And that's my focus. It's always been my focus. I don't really get into too much other ego thing. I try to figure out how to parse and put those players together and go out there and do the things they need to do. Now, there could be some additional discussion about emotion or feelings or press coming after you or certain things that you might be able to support and help them and counsel them. But when it really comes down to the game, if I were the interim coach, I'm going to prepare myself harder than any other coach, watch more film, do longer hours, and I'm going to get my team prepared so they're confident in going out there and playing the game because, that's what you're going to do. Life is always forward, just like football. Man, you get tackled, really bad play, it's always the next play. So life is the same way, and that's what they're going to have to do. Pick it up, take responsibility where you have to take responsibility. But if you're not needing to take that responsibility for other people's actions in that regard, then you take what you have in your life and put it together and play the best game. That would be the greatest healing, I think, all the way around, is to do it with dignity and do it on the field. And for teams to come together and rally and show why it's so important for us to be together and as a group and as a team, and that we're not going through this nonsense of parsing individuals. This is what it's all about. That's what we love football and any team sport, because it's supposedly blind to color in every single way, culture and everything. And if you've ever played it, it's true. When you're in there on the field and in battle, everybody's important and everybody's the same in that regard. And you rely on each other. So these are the things I would continue to stress, and continue to push forward on.
And anybody who watched that last night's game would have seen the main umpire referee. She was out there like holding the spot the entire time. She had a long ponytail, and it was just such a great revelation after we heard all the things that John Gruden said about women being officials and about the entire mess. We got to see a female like on blast in the spotlight, holding the spot and being the referee and being the umpire, and that was a great thing to say. Now, real quick, it's Fed Up Friday, Craig, and I just want to ask you, because I'm from Virginia. I'm from Virginia Beach. Aren't you from Virginia?
Yes, sir. Born and raised in Virginia, my friend.
And where are you from, Mo Murphy?
I'm from Florida.
All right, now tell everybody where you from, Sage Alvarez.
I'm from Palm Springs.
All right, so let me ask you, Sage, first. When you see something like this in your house, what do you call it? All right, give me a second. I'm pulling it up. Now, I moved away from my last place in order to avoid these. No, that's not a roach. That's not a regular roach.
That's a cockroach.
Well, where I'm from, we call them water bugs. I'm fed up with water bugs because these water bugs, they're like 5 times the size of regular cockroaches, and they only come out when you have company over.
Whose arm is that on? I want to know whose arm that's on. That's a little.
No, that's not an arm.
That needs to get fixed. I hope that's not your arm.
No, that's not my arm. That's not my arm.
Is that Barry's arm? I think that's Barry's arm.
That is not my arm. That is the what do they call it? The stucco outside of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the stucco.
All right.
My arm is not that color. Hey, Mo Murphy, have you ever heard these things to be called water bugs?
Yeah, I have.
Like, do you call them water bugs? Or do you call them cockroaches?
No, we call them water bugs, roaches. It depends on where my mind is at the moment when I see it. That just depends on what it is.
These are not regular cockroaches. Like, everybody's seen a cockroach. You can act like you haven't seen one, but you've seen one. It doesn't matter where you live. But these cockroaches are bigger than a computer mouse. Like, these are water bugs. And and my friend over at Rudy's Termite and Pest Control told me that the technical name for these things are American cockroaches. But that's a zoom in. Look at your hand. This thing is probably a third of your hand, that size.
Hey, that's a lovely God-given creature right there, Barry. You're going to have to live with them. There's a lot of bugs and insects out there. Get used to it. Get tougher. Come on, man. Let's go.
All right, and we just want to leave you real quick with the meme of the day. I saw this the other day, and I thought this was pretty funny. Anybody who's watched Roseanne, Pat Mahomes, he's a good looking guy to a lot of people, but he definitely does look like Darlene. You guys didn't like that?
I mean, it's just like, who comes up with this stuff?
I mean, apparently people online. The internet is undefeated. I've seen a lot of funny things on the internet. Well, Craig Campbell, we want to thank you for joining us and giving us such defensive insight and just football wisdom.
You know what? I know you want to go, but I don't want to go. I have one more thing I want to talk about. Is that okay?
Let's hear it.
Yeah,
let's talk about the 4th and 1s, man. Let's talk about the 4th down conversion rates out there, and let's discuss it and break that down.
Let's do it.
First of all, Sage, tell me, is it a good idea or not a good idea?
That's a great idea.
Mo, what do you think?
It depends on where I'm at on the field.
Okay, what do you think, Barry?
4th and 1. I mean, John Harbaugh is traditionally always going for it on 4th and 1. But if I'm at my own 42-yard line or above, then I'm going for it. But if I'm beyond the 40, 41, then I'm not doing it.
Of course, it matters where you're at. But just to give you guys some statistics, you're about in the 62, 63% conversion rate on 4th and 1, no matter where you're at on a field. And if you're actually able to run a Brady, it's about an 82 to 83% conversion rate, which means that statistically, that makes a lot of sense. First of all, it's great for the game. NFL is pretty exciting this year, looking a little bit like college, like those coaches could make a mistake at any time and a team could come back and win. I like that. It does get away from some of the monotony of things, but the 4th and 1 thing's a real deal, because the truth of it is, if you go for it and you score 7 versus 3, you're 230% higher score. In other words, that's 2 field goals plus another point. So you have that factor as well. In other words, even if you don't make that 4th and 1 and you're deep in the 20-yard line, a lot of times like kick that field goal, that would have been old school thinking. But the truth of it is that the percentages are on your side to actually make that 4th and 1. And with all those things together, I think it's a great integration. It's super important. And if offensive teams really thought about having 4 downs to play, it could transform the way the game's actually played. Because most offensive coordinators are still going for 3 downs and out, 3.4 plays. If it's 4 plays, you only have to do 2.5 yards per carry, per whatever. Really? I feel like I could do that. Put me in.
As a coach, would it matter who your quarterback is in a 4th and 1 situation?
Like, well,
if you had Teddy Bridgewater, would you go for it on 4th and 1?
So here's the point. If you are running that quarterback sneak, it goes up to about 82, 83%. So if you're doing any other type of play, if the ball's being touched by anybody else, you're dropping into the 60-some percentage. Of all the teams, 32 teams out there, 19 teams are 50% or above in 4th and 1 right now. So you got it. It's a good play statistically. And if you can't come up with a 4th and 1 play to get 3 feet, then maybe you shouldn't be coaching.
That's what Greg Lombardi said. He said if you can't get a yard, what'd he say?
Sounds right to me.
God, I won't say what he said, but if you can't get a yard, damn it, you don't deserve to be champions.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring up that little 4th and 1 because a lot of people are talking about it. I think it's super exciting.
Shout out to Greg Lombardi. I know.
And the stats are showing it's worthwhile, and it puts a lot of pressure on defensive teams to scheme if teams are really going for it.
So let me ask you this question, Craig Campbell.
That's why I love it, because you believe you're believing in your offense, and then you simplify things instead of thinking if you're playing for 3 downs. Now when you go to the 4 down, now you're not. Your play calling's a lot better. It's smoother. Players are more satisfied with the 2.5 yards, because if they had to think that if it's not 3.5 yards at least, you're just not going to get the first down.
So let me ask you this, Craig: if you got a 4th and 1 conversion and you're the defensive coordinator on the other side of the ball, what kind of defense are you gonna play? Are you gonna try to stop the run, or are you gonna play for that play action?
It all depends.
Well, I mean, that's super tough. I'm definitely gonna be playing the box, and I'm gonna cram that box super tight unless they're spread me out. I mean, it just depends on the configuration. But I'm moving up my linebackers into that box tough. I'm going to make sure I'm hitting every single A, B, C. All the gaps are going to be filled, and we're going to push on that. And then we're going to make sure that we got some great coverage either behind it. And of course, there's all kinds of zone schemes that you can play, or play man, because you can attack the player at the line, which makes it much tougher for that 1 yard to get picked up. It's usually going to be a quick hitting. Now, you could have a play action in that long, deep play. It just depends on the offensive talent on the other side. Do you have mismatches on that 1-and-1 or man? Then you're going to maybe have to double team, or you're going to have to do some sort of zone in the backside of it so that you're not getting burned for the big play. But more than likely, they're just going for that shorter play. I'm stacking the box, and I'm going to make you make the pass. I'm going to get it out of your hands. I'm going to make you have to do something with it other than run it down my throat.
That's what I'm doing on Madden too. So shout out to Craig Campbell. He is responsible for CoachellaValley.com, today'scalifornia.com, and today'scanada.com, all the platforms that we're on. We want to thank him. He is our defensive coordinator of the show. From now on, anytime we have questions about defense, we are going to you, Craig. Is that
Bring
okay?
it in. Bring it on.
For sure.
Hey, guys, you guys are doing a wonderful job. I love the show. Keep going at it. Keep hitting it every day. People don't realize just how much time it really takes to prepare, but you obviously love what you guys are doing, and it shows. So bring on the fans. Hey, guys, if you're watching this later or whenever, make sure you comment. Let us know where you're at, where you're from, and invite a friend to join us. And at some point, we'll get you guys involved. We want to bring in you, the listener, the fan, onto the show, do some interactivity, some phone calling, and maybe put you in one of the boxes right here and on the hot seat. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
We love you on the show.
Thank you so much, Craig. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
All right. So Mo Murphy, your final thoughts on everything we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, Craig was perfect. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I wanted to ask him, so if he is listening, he can hit me up. I wanted to know if he coached at College of the Desert. He was a running backs coach. I wanted to know if he coached Raquan Dickens, but I asked him that later. But I did want to know only because, he was a beast at College of the Desert, but I want to know if he coached him. But yeah, other than that, I mean, like you said, that 4th and 1, that kind of puts some things in perspective as far as when you're really watching it and you hear those numbers. And I've heard them before.
Isn't that insightful?
But you always think about it, and you're like, even when they do it and analytics tells you it's better off to do it, you're still like, when it doesn't happen, you don't care if they say 98% of the time. If you part of that 2%, part of that 18%, you're upset with the call as a fan sitting there and watching the game. So that's the only tricky part about it.
And I'm a Ravens fan, and John Harbaugh has been he has been meticulous with his going forward on 4th down, because he got Lamar Jackson. He can extend the play with his legs. And every time we go for it, even though I see the numbers and the analytics and I know the percentage, we're definitely gonna get it. I always cringe because I'm just a purist when it comes to sports. But yeah, Craig,
and shout out to my guy Cody Bellinger. Had such a rough year, and it come through last night.
Bro, he came through.
Hey,
and
it doesn't even matter. But it doesn't even matter. He had one of the worst years of his career. It doesn't even matter.
And he's been injured. And to his credit, he's been injured, and he's had some problems, going through. But we're really banged up right now as the Dodgers. We don't have Clay Kershaw. We don't have Dustin May. We don't have Max Muncy, who was our best player all year. But you're right. That's a great point. Cody Bellinger has had his worst season when he's healthy this season, and right now he is looking like a champion. And I think that if he gets activated, look out, Atlanta. We coming for y'all. Were you excited about the game, Sage?
Oh, so excited about the game. And now we're about to go to Atlanta, and I know it's going to be crazy in both stadiums. You go to Atlanta. I've been outside that stadium. It's crazy. It's amazing. They have a great their fans are going to go in. It's going to be tough home field. It's going to be home field advantage. It's going to show clearly in both games, and I'm excited to see the Dodgers and Braves. This is the matchup we've been wanting to see for a while now. So now we get to see it.
And it's a shame that Acuna Jr. is injured, because that's been
right.
their best player over. But they have a great lineup. I love Duvall, and I love everybody. I love Albies. I love Freeman. I love what they're doing. And people have seen me wear an Atlanta Braves hat because my dad is an Atlanta Braves fan, and he tried to raise me as a Braves fan. They had the best pitching rotation ever with Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and Steve Avery, and the list goes with John Smoltz. So it goes on and on, but ultimately, I've been a Dodger fan ever since I was a kid.
Chipper Jones was. I used to just
Chipper
go
Jones
to
was a
Dodger games,
beast.
and
Chipper Jones was a beast, but I was
used to
always a
just
Dodger
beat us
fan.
every game. I used to think I'm gonna go to a Dodger game and we're gonna lose because we're playing the Braves. I don't know why my parents kept taking me to the Braves game. I'm like, we're gonna lose this game. I just always had bad luck when it came to the Braves game.
Well, one thing I do know is that when you're missing, key players, then that's when the management side comes out, and we're gonna see some of the best moves from these managers. And hats off to Gabe Kapler, the manager of the San Francisco Giants. He managed a great series, and they were the best team in baseball. They were one game better than the Dodgers, and just so happened that we ended up beating them. But they definitely, I wish that series could have been a 7-game series because that's how great that series was. And in a game 5, it was 2-1, and it went down to the wire. But Dodger fans, we are all excited because Kenley Jansen had a couple good performances, but let's not forget the last 7 years. So let's pump our brakes, and we'll talk about it on Monday. But we want to thank Craig Campbell for coming by. We want to thank Mo Murphy for being on the show. We want to thank Sage Alvarez for being on the show, and thank y'all for putting up with me today. It's Fed Up Friday. I know y'all fed up with me. But stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired, and we'll see y'all on Monday. Thank you for tuning in.